Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Walz under Minnesota Statute Chapter 12, Emergency Management, declared a peacetime emergency on March 13, 2020. The city has determined that an in-person meeting may not be practical or prudent because of the health pandemic. The City of Detroit Lakes meetings will be held via telephone conference call or by other electronic means as outlined in Minnesota Statute 13B.021. Members of the public who wish to view the meeting virtually should submit a request to the city office. The City of Detroit Lakes City Council meeting will be a hybrid meeting taking place with two options. You could attend in person at the Historic Home Center Ballroom located at 806 Summit Avenue or attend virtually. To attend virtually, please submit a request to the City of Detroit Lakes. And so with that, I will call the regular meeting of the Detroit Lakes City Council to order. And at this time, I'd like to invite all of you to please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We've got a few public hearings to take care of, and then I'll adjust some of the agenda items to accommodate folks that are here this evening. So at this time, I'll adjourn the regular meeting and call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed improvement of curb, gutter, concrete approaches and sidewalks for 2021. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the proposed improvements on curb, gutter, concrete approaches and sidewalks? And I know Larry Olson is here. He has a question. Go ahead, Larry. You want to come up and use this microphone here so they hear you?
All I want is to know that in between our two driveways, Ray Blowers and mine, if that little piece in there can be just left all the way across with concrete.
So Sean, do you want to talk to Larry about his question? Okay, is there anyone else in the audience who's got a question or wants to make a comment regarding the proposed improvements of curb, gutter, concrete approaches and sidewalks for 2021? So, hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval of the resolution.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the resolution on proposed curb, gutter, concrete approaches and sidewalk improvements. And I'll take a roll call vote. Aye.
Aye.
Seaman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Wilkie.
Aye.
Leonard.
Aye.
Dahlman. Aye. Spry.
Aye.
Mark Erickson.
Aye.
Suki.
Aye.
The motion carries. So Larry and Sean, our public works director, can talk to you about the question, okay? At this time, I'll call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed project and the issuance of industrial development revenue bonds. And I would call on our finance officer, Heidi, to give us a review of that.
Mr. Mayor, actually, if you would, I don't believe that we approved the minutes or the consent agenda yet.
Yeah, I'll go back to
Okay,
that.
gotcha, okay. So tonight, here at the meeting, we have Jim Stewart from Arnson, Stewart and Wagner, and he will introduce the conduit debt issuance that is being proposed this evening for Solutions Behavioral Healthcare. This is debt that is issued using the city's tax exempt status. However, the city is not responsible or liable for any payments associated with this debt. And Mr. Stewart, if you would please just give us a little overview of what the council is considering this evening.
Thank you, Heidi, Mr. Mayor, and the City Council. My name is Jim Stewart. I'm an attorney with Arnson, Stewart and Wagner in Fargo.
Can you get a little closer to the microphone? I'm sorry, it's hard to hear there.
Yeah. Thank you. My name is Jim Stewart. I'm an attorney with Arnson, Stewart and Wagner in Fargo. We're representing Solutions Behavioral Healthcare Professionals as bond counsel. They are requesting the City of Detroit Lakes to issue bonds under the State's Industrial Development Act. The proceeds of the bonds would be used to finance the acquisition of a building It's at 1041 Hawk Street, and it would be renovated and used to provide offices and a healthcare clinic. Solutions Behavioral is involved in providing mental health services and counseling. As Heidi mentioned, under the statute, the city has no liability for any payments on the bonds. Solutions is responsible for making all those payments. We've submitted documents to the city's bond council as well for review. If you have any questions regarding the project or the financing, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments regarding the issuance of the industrial development revenue bonds? Okay, thank you. Hearing no comments or questions, I would close the public hearing and entertain a motion for approval.
I make a motion that we go ahead and adopt the note resolution as presented. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Suki? Madeline? We'll come back to Madeline. Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Dahlman? Aye. Leonard?
Aye.
Wolke?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Madeline, are you with us?
I am. Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. At this time, I'll call to order a public hearing to receive public comments in the matter for the proposed vacation of the portion of the dedicated public road for Lot 9 through 18 in the plat of Sunset Beach, First Edition, in the area of 294 to 302 Shorewood Drive. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to make a comment or has any questions about the proposed vacation of that area? Okay, hearing none, the public hearing is closed, and I will entertain a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution vacating a portion of the dedicated public road for Lot 9 through 18 in the plat of Sunset Beach, First Edition, in the area of 294 through 302 Shorewood Drive. Discussion?
Just want to pause just for a moment.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dan Minor.
I would, just want Larry Grimmon, looks like he wants to jump in and say something, but he can't seem to, get a decent connection.
It's not coming through, Larry.
So what properties here?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, great. What I was going to say is that this vacation is a little bit unusual because generally when we vacate a right-of-way, we extend the property lines out and that's to the roadway, and then each of the owners get that property. In this case, if we did that, the property lines would intersect and we wouldn't reach the road. So each of the owners that are abutting this right-of-way that's being vacated have to agree to the legal description that they're going to receive for the area that they are going to receive back when we do this vacation. They have all agreed to that, and so we can move forward with the proposed vacation.
Okay, Dan Leonard, did you have another comment though?
Nothing around there, Nick,
Okay.
it's just,
Dan
Joe's
Joseph.
Larry trying to, he couldn't get through.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
No, my comment was just there was a potential pause on this one, so if we've got it all cleared up, then we can move ahead with this vacation.
Okay, so is that a motion?
You already had a motion and a second on the table.
Well, thank you. I've lost it already.
It's early.
Further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Bly?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Wolke?
Aye.
Leonard?
Aye.
Dahlman? Aye. Spry?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Sugan?
Aye.
So I'll quickly go back and do the minutes of the consent agenda. The minutes of the regular city council meeting held April 13th, 2021 are before the council. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to make any changes or corrections of the minutes as they're printed? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting held April 13th, 2021. Discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. Silky? Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Leonard?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Why?
Aye.
Motion carries. The consent agenda is before the council, and all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there any member of the audience or any of the council who wishes to either add or remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as printed. Discussion? Roll call vote. Bly?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Leonard?
Aye.
Dahlman? Spry?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
The motion carries without objection. To the council, there are 3 finance committee items. We have folks here this evening, so Ron, would you please take 7A, 7C, and 7E?
Okay, Your Honor, the first one is number 78, Kurt Keena, our executive director for our housing director here at Detroit Lakes, would like to talk to us about the possibility of authorizing a levy to help pay for houses that need improvements on them, and we're going to have Kurt give us an update about what that's all about.
Kurt, you might have to move that mic in a little closer. Hard to hear in here.
Will that work? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As Commissioner Zeman indicated, I'm the Executive Director of the Detroit Lakes Housing and Redevelopment Authority. And over the course of the past year, the commissioners that serve on the Housing Authority have engaged in a discussion about what more they could be doing to help preserve the affordable housing stock of the city of Detroit Lakes. And over the last 3 or 4 months, we've really those discussions have narrowed in on a program to help existing homeowners make improvements that would help preserve the habitability of their structures. So if you have that summary sheet in front of you, the purpose of the program is to maintain the integrity and the habitability of the existing older housing stock within the city of Detroit Lakes so that we can preserve affordable home ownership options, not only for the current owner, but for the subsequent owners. So the program, as we envision, would help folks who own a property. So they have to be the property owner and they have to occupy the dwelling. This is not for rental property. The property must be classified as homestead. They have to be current on their property taxes, have to have intact property insurance on the property, and they have to be current on their mortgage payments. So if they meet those qualifications, and then in addition, fall within the income limits of the program. For this program, we're envisioning using 80% of area median income for Becker County. And for a family of 4, right now, the median income is $74,500. So under our program, a family of 4 could earn just under $60,000 and qualify for this program. The minimum amount of a loan that we are thinking of doing is about $3,000. We don't want to do a whole bunch of $1,000 jobs. We want to be impactful. And the maximum loan that we've envisioned is about $12,000. And we came up with $12,000 because we thought that would put a roof on a modest-sized home in the city. It would replace HVAC system. It would make improvements to plumbing or electrical, those sorts of things. So it's not a big amount. It's not meant to be a makeover of the home. It's simply meant to keep that home habitable and meeting code, not only for the current owner, but for future owners. We would structure this as a 0% deferred loan that would come back to the program upon sale, transfer, or conveyance of that piece of property. So when that owner sells it, conveys it, or does something else with it, the proceeds of that loan come back into the program and can be recycled and used again. In this way, the money stays in the community and continues to help maintain the housing stock that we have here. The sorts of repairs we're envisioning, again, we're not thinking of cosmetic things, we're thinking things that keep that house livable and safe and up to code for that owner. So a roof, for example, if someone's got a leaky roof and needs their roof shingled, that would qualify. Other things, insulation, siding, perhaps if they impact energy efficiency, help bring the cost of heating and cooling that home more in line. As I mentioned, HVAC, mechanical plumbing upgrades, someone's furnace is going out, or their electrical is out of date and out of compliance and needs to be brought up, things like that. Foundation repairs, because some of the needs for properties aren't necessarily visible, right? As you drive by, some houses could continue to serve that family and future families, but for a better foundation. So what we're thinking is we use licensed contractors. They pull a building permit from the City of Detroit Lakes. Through that process, that work is inspected by the building inspector and passes inspection. And then the HRA would be responsible for paying the contractor. So the contractor knows that if they've performed the work and it passes inspection, they know the money's going to come from the HRA. They don't have to worry about working with the homeowner to get payment over time or things like that. One of the things that we really hope happens with this is that we're able to leverage these funds with other programs. The program that comes to mind is Mojave Atwa administers a weatherization program. Those are federal dollars, and they are often able to do things like insulation and furnaces. But they're working on that home, and they know that that roof is leaking because they see a bucket on the floor. Their funds can't do that, but we could come in alongside them, we could do that roof, and then we've really made an impact on that property. So what we're trying to do is craft a local solution to a local issue using local resources. Trying to keep it very simple, trying to keep the threshold for participation low. You meet the income qualification and you need a repair that meets our criteria, you're in. Sometimes you can overcomplicate a program and just you put people off because they're just not going to jump through all those hoops to participate. So what the HRA envisions, if the council approves this as part of their process, we would like the council to implement an HRA levy that is in Detroit Lakes currently. So the levy amount is set by statute, and that's 0.0185%. Again, 0.0185%, and that's on the taxable base of the City of Detroit Lakes. And as we checked with the county yesterday, that is almost $1.3 billion. So that tax levy would generate annually approximately $237,000. That would allow us to do somewhere in the range of 20 to 25 houses or properties a year, assuming that our thresholds are adequate and correct. It will take us a little time to get the program off the ground. We're going to have to work with the contractor community and do some outreach with them to entice them to do these smaller jobs. We may have to, in fact, encourage some folks who are handy in construction and doing that sort of thing now but lack the general contractor's license. We may have to encourage them to go ahead and take that step and become licensed, and we can ensure them that there's work for them to do. We'll also have to do some outreach in the community. We'll have to let folks know that this is available and answer their questions and do that sort of thing. So we envision that sort of work happening between the time a levy would be authorized, assuming you would be so kind to do that, and when the money actually comes in, because there's a lag time there. We would use that time to be out in the community talking with partners and residents and contractors and suppliers and hopefully launch this and get underway.
Okay, any questions for Kurt about the proposed program and the proposed levy? Go ahead, Aaron.
Kurt, my question is, if someone does a roof and they do it for $12,000, Are we gonna file a lien against the property to make sure we get paid back?
Yeah, we would actually file it as a mortgage. It'd be a second mortgage typically, but it'd be 0% interest, it'd be deferred, there'd be no payment on it until that property is sold, transferred, or conveyed. Then, presumably, there's proceeds from the sale that could come back and repay us our full amount, and then we would recycle that. So our way to capture that and track that is that second mortgage registration.
Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, you know, this is a discussion item because this will have to come back to our budget committee in August when we do next year's budget. But the idea of this is to have a program set because virtually every neighborhood in Detroit Lakes have houses that need repair. These houses can be in price range of anywhere from $75,000 to $150,000, but there's just, they have no means of doing a fix-up on these houses. So the reason Kurt's here tonight to explain the program, he's gonna have to come back in August when we have our budget meetings and go over that again with us. But the whole idea is for years, the HRA has been, you know, they have a part to go ahead with this levy, but we've never have drawn on it before. But we've got so many houses right now, and our concern is affordable houses, because if these people can't afford to live in a $125,000 house, how are they gonna be able to afford to live in a $250,000 house? So we're trying to keep the housing that we have going forward, and fixing it up so that it is livable. And that's the idea of this program. And Kelsey, do you have anything else you want to add in on this?
No, I think Alderman Zeman mentioned we would take it back during the budget process. Just one comment too, I mean, the max is provided in statute, and Kurt mentioned that, so I mean, you can go up to the max, and then you could levy anywhere in between there, but I think those are discussions we'll have to have during our budget discussions.
But like I said, it's information, and Kurt has done an excellent job since he's been on board as our executive director, and he's been in this all his life, and so he knows how to fix up these problems in towns like ours, and we're just glad to have him as our executive director. Thank you very much, Kurt.
Thank you. Thank you, members.
Thanks, Kurt. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, let's go on down to, I'll go right down in order. I think we have Karen Sparrow here. And there she is. Okay, come on up, Karen. We want to have a discussion on the South Shore Park project, fundraising, and also, you know, we're going to give consideration to approving quotes for the purchase of playground equipment, and also looking at some concrete and fencing for some sport courts. So, go ahead, Karen.
At the Finance Committee meeting this afternoon, I reported that the Friends of South Shore Park has raised 50.83% of its goal, and I believe that the number is 106,000 and change. And I believe that the committee is recommending that we award the bids on the playground equipment and perhaps withhold the authorization to let the bids on the concrete work and the fence until the entire amount is raised. I can report that we may have had a slow start, but we're really gearing up, and things have improved tremendously over the past 2 weeks. We have another meeting tomorrow, and I expect that we'll be dividing up asks. I've made some to some victims here today. And I don't know if there's anything else that you want to know from me, but I can certainly answer questions if anybody has them.
Karen, you're going to have an open house. Can you tell when that's going to be? You're going to have a groundbreaking on this?
Our open house will be at South Shore Park on the 19th of May between 4 o'clock and 7 p.m. And the mayor is going to talk, and unfortunately, I've agreed to speak too.
Okay. And so between now and then, you're going to be out trying to raise funds, but tonight we're going to be looking at approving quotes for playground equipment at this point, because that's what we have money in there for. But we also will go ahead with the rest of the project, including concrete and fencing, as more money come in. And that's what you understand, Karen?
That's what I understand occurred at the committee meeting.
Okay, and I would, the committee approves this, so I recommend that we go ahead with what I just said about capital playground equipment for now. As the money comes in, we'll finish the rest of the project with the concrete and the fencing project. And then that's my motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to move forward with the purchase of the playground equipment for the South Shore Park and delay approving the concrete and fencing until the additional funds are raised. Discussion on the motion? Do a roll call vote. Lai.
Aye.
Zeman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Wolke.
Aye.
Winter.
Aye.
Dahlman. Spry.
Aye.
Mark Ziertzen.
Aye.
Suki.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Okay, thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Okay, the next time we go down is Jeff here. We'll have him come up and talk to us about the Detroit Lawn and Recreation area and look at their financing for the budget and rates for next year.
And this is Jeff Staley, the General Manager of the Detroit Lawn and Recreation Area.
Hi, thank you. Today I met with the Finance Committee requesting the city approve our 2020-2021 budget, our rates, and a project to construct a storage building on the Detroit Mountain property. Ron, how deep do you want me to go?
Well, you go ahead and just kind of give us a recap of last year. You had in spite of COVID, you still had a pretty good year. You could maybe just recap that a little bit for us.
Sure. Yeah, despite COVID, of course, all businesses were affected negatively, and just opening doors was at times a hassle with some of the physical distancing and mask requirements and all that stuff. With the nature of the ski operation, you can imagine that's even more difficult because we're trying to operate a rental shop, a food and beverage operation, many different components to take into consideration. We restricted capacity extremely, making sure there were no excessive crowds and that there was plenty of opportunity for people to get out and recreate without being on top of each other, and kept space and lift lines and all that good stuff. We were down about 25% in revenue compared to last year because of that fact, just on the operating income alone. Take into consideration the fact that we were not able to do all of our events, specifically our large fundraising event, Music on the Mountain, last year. Total revenue was down about $900,000. We were fortunate enough to receive CARES funding through the city to help offset some of those expenses that we incurred, as well as PPP loans and some CARES funding through the county. So that certainly took a lot of the sting out. But overall, we were still profitable, and despite being down about probably 15,000 visits compared to the previous season in our average. So, but all in all, I think we considered it a successful year. No COVID outbreaks, no problems related to that, and on the positive side, the summer operation doubled in visitation. So we, over the past 5 years, we've been typically about 3,500 summer visits that we track. 2019 saw a little uptick with the new bike trails that we opened, and we were just over 4,000 visits. And then last summer we were at just over 8,000 visits. So again, people were wanting to get out and recreate outdoors and not have to wear masks and hassle with that. So our budget is much improved over last year, but consistent with our previous years, so nothing out of the ordinary with any of our revenue lines or operating expenses.
Any questions for Jeff? Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Okay, maybe we could have Jeff too. We've got 2 items on, and I'll have him tell about both before we vote on them. The next one is a request for the Detroit Mountain to build a storage warming house. What can you tell us about that, Jeff?
Yeah, we were approached by the chair of the DL Nordic Club, and the chair of that is Lynn Peterson. That group had organized a little over a year ago or so and had formed a nonprofit. And they raised a significant amount of money to purchase trail groomers and snowmobiles and things to improve Nordic trails around the county. But we're connected with them pretty closely, and they had requested to place a shipping container on site to store Nordic skis for primarily the youth, the Minnesota Youth Cross-Country Ski League. And the more we talked, we thought maybe a more permanent structure would look more in keeping with the other structures on site. And with the help of Dan Josephson, who is the DL High School Nordic coach, came up with a 20 by 24 garage building that could be used for ski storage as well as bike storage in the summertime for the local mountain bike chapter when they host group rides. So we are looking for the city to grant us permission to construct that 20 by 24 shed on what would be the southeast corner of our trailhead, or the southeast corner of our parking lot. So it's easily accessible to both the Nordic and bike ski trails.
Okay. I think that takes care. We've got two items we're going to vote on, and we'll take them one at a time here. The first one is consideration of approving the 2021 and 22 budget with rates for the Detroit Lakes Recreational Mountain. The committee recommends, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the 2021-22 budget and rates for the Detroit Mountain Recreation Area. Discussion? Roll call vote. Suki? Marks Erickson? I think we got 2 votes there. Spry?
Dan, sorry.
That's right. Wendy?
Aye.
Dahlman? Aye. Wenner?
Aye.
Bulkey? Aye. Josephson?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Lai.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, item number 2 is consideration request for the Detroit Mountains to build a storage and warming house area for their supplies for $30,000. They've already raised over $10,000. The committee recommends, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the construction of a storage / warming house at the Detroit Mountain Recreation Area. Discussion? Roll call vote. Bly?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Bulkey? Aye. Wenner?
Aye.
Dahlman? Aye. Spry?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have item E, consideration of approving request for approvals for the historical home theater by the DLCC, and we've got Peter and Amy. Come forward, please.
Good evening, Peter Jacobson from the DLCCC. Thanks for having us, and would like to talk to you about a proposed improvement to your building. We're bringing it to you as owners of the building and through our management agreement requiring your approval. Before kind of talking about the why, I wanted to just talk about what was in your packet and how we got to there. 2 slides. First one, if you could go to the one with the balcony. We've had a long-term plan of wanting to enhance our balcony seating, which are small, they're splintered, they're not accessible, and so in our strategic plan for this year called for the improvement and renovation of that area. It also called for our ability to do that was contingent on our ability to fundraise for that project. As we began talking about that, and as COVID hit, if you could go to the next slide, we also began talking about some additional enhancements that we could make to this building. And so what you see on this drawing, obviously the room in the green is the room we're sitting in right now, and the improvements that we would propose making would include, number one, removing the stage area from this building and creating some larger openings between this building, or this room, and the theater. Other improvements that we would propose making would be to create another opening on this side, and then create some larger meeting room space on that side of the building. And then our concessions area, our food prep and serving area, really needs some enhancements, both to the electrical components as well as the ability to, dishwashers and food servers, and for all the kinds of community meals that happen in this building. We propose doing some cosmetic updates to our restrooms, and then potentially some widening of the hall in that museum area. So why are we doing this? Number one is just to enhance the experience of people that are attending events at the theater or in the ballroom. Any of you have been to a busy theater show know that it gets very, very crowded in the hallways, people waiting to get to the restroom, waiting to get a drink, and just trying to have conversation. That's become an even bigger issue in COVID times because people are less comfortable in crowded spaces. When I think back to some of the events that I've been in this room pre-COVID, I was, and now thinking about holding those same type of events here after COVID, just our need to spread out. And so opening this up really significantly enhances the capacity of this room. It's rated for 413 people, but to really get 413 people in here now would be impossible. So it would enhance the ability to do that. It's also part of our rationale is tied to the museum and having that new lobby and new entryway, that it creates new opportunities to work together between the museum and the theater and the ballroom for hosting events, not only local events, but there really isn't a venue in town where 400 plus people could meet, for example, in the theater, and then eat or greet in this part of the facility. So those are some of the background reasons why we want to do this. And one additional I'll point out is creating the ability to bring enhanced technology to people. So we've written and already received a grant to put a full-size movie screen and projection system into the theater, and that creates opportunities for showing classic and documentary type films. It will create the opportunity to stream cultural entertainment for all kinds of different events. So we're hoping to enhance this building, and I guess the final reason is, as Amy Stearns and I have had informal conversations with people that would be stakeholders, whether it be wedding planners, hotels, caterers in town. There's been tremendous interest. We've also had obviously lots of conversation with our board and some potential donors, and everyone that we've approached has said, yes, this is definitely something that this facility needs and something that our community could use. So how do we do it? One, we need to make sure that we have the resources to do it, and I'm very committed to making sure that we have fundraised this project, so we're not going to use resources from other parts of our balance sheet to address this. So we would like your permission to proceed, and with that permission that we would actually begin a more formal fundraising campaign. The costs on this depend on a little bit on how much we do. We've got preliminary estimates from the architect that would have it somewhere in the range of $500,000 to $700,000, which would include all of our furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And that number, is a little bit floating, and it's harder to get firm numbers this early in the project. But we would again propose that we would launch that fundraising campaign, begin to engage an architect to get more firm numbers and construction documents, and then make a commitment that we would not proceed until we have a minimum of 30% of the cost of the project in hand, or a minimum of 90% of the pledges in hand. So I would stop and entertain any comments or questions you might have for me.
Peter, I have a question. When you say stakeholders by the hotels, are you meaning that they're willing to put up money to be a pleasure on this project, when you say stakeholders?
We did not speak to any of the hotels about making contributions. We've talked to other individuals about that. More so, just talking to them about would they see this as something that would potentially enhance their business and enhance the ability to attract and retain people in our community. And in that light, yes, they've been, the couple that we've talked with have had very favorable responses.
See, that's been one of the problems all along, with talking about convention centers and everything else. The hotels always wanted it, but they were never willing to contribute to it. And that's why when you said stakeholders, I was hoping you meant they were pledging for the project. So.
Well, to be fair, we haven't asked them. All we've asked them is if this were here, would they see this as being something that would enhance our community? And they've got very favorable responses from that standpoint.
Thank you.
And that, I think, is one of the positives as well, is while there's a significant cost with this, it's a very small fraction of what the cost of an event, a true event center would be in the community. So it's taking an existing asset and strengthening it and making it better to better serve the community and also bring others here.
Questions from the council for Peter? Well, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make the motion, then we go ahead and we can approve this request for this improvement from $500,000 to $700,000. And like Peter said, they will before they'll start, they'll raise at least 90% of that amount in pledges, and they'll have 30% of that amount will be paid and put in the bank before we start the project.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
I'll do a roll call vote. Bly.
Aye.
Seaman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Oki.
Aye.
Wenner.
Aye.
Dahlman. Aye. Spry.
Aye.
Mark Erickson. Suki.
Aye.
The motion carries. Without objection, I would like to skip over to the Community Development Committee, item 5F, regarding fences, Dan.
All right, item 5F is consideration of first reading of ordinance 480, amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Detroit Lakes relative to fences. We had some conversation last night at the meeting, and then there was also talk of potentially sending this back to the planning commission level to address potentially the height issue on some of the fences, from going from a 3-foot to a 4-foot possibly. Chairman of the Planning Commission, Wenner, stepped out of the meeting prior to this discussion, so yes, I'd like to get a little bit of his input, but at this point, I would like to recommend sending this back down to the Planning Commission again to peer review.
Dan Wenner, do you have any comments at this time?
I don't have any comments. We sure can take a look at that. I'd like to have staff, of course, talk about the thought process behind going to a 4-foot fence. But yeah, we can take a look at it again.
Okay.
Andy wants to talk about that question also.
Did you want to say a few things about the proposed changes to the fence ordinance?
Yes, I do, thank you.
Sure. And if you don't mind, will you give us your name and address for our minutes?
Absolutely, my name is Andrew Graham. Is the mic working okay? And I'm
Hold
at
a little closer.
Yeah.
Andrew Graham
There you
at
go.
308 Sunset Avenue,
Okay.
and on the north side of the city. And I want to comment on the fencing ordinance. And I look in particular at section 3, subdivision F, item number 2. And my particular interest is in just a sentence in that one paragraph item that refers to prohibited materials. And my concern is that as a gardener, I think some of the prohibited materials might be prohibited from putting around a garden on my lot. I'm not talking about the entire, property line, but just a portion of the lot where we plan to raise vegetables, and some of the kinds of fencing materials that are most appropriate to keep animals out of your garden seem to be prohibited by the language in the ordinance as I read it. And in particular, the ordinance prohibits use of agricultural type fencing. Doesn't really explain what that means, but I can imagine that might include some of the things that we would use to protect our garden from animals. and it also prohibits the use of fencing made from wire. And again, some of the kind of fencing that's most economical, most practical for gardeners to put around a garden to keep animals out is going to be wire fencing, wire mesh fencing that might be construed to be of an agricultural nature as well. So my request is just that as the council considers this ordinance, that you think about gardeners and flexibility for having relatively inexpensive materials you can put up quickly, take down quickly, move from one little area to another, and not write the ordinance so strictly that it would constrain that type of fencing too much.
Okay, any comments from our city staff?
Mayor, I think Larry wants to make a comment, but he's muted.
Okay.
Sorry about that. If you're talking about a temporary fence that's just put up for gardening, we have not required permits for that. If it's a permanent fence that's up year-round, then this ordinance will apply.
So, Andrew, would that solve the problem, or do you still have a bit of an issue?
Well, I guess I don't know about the permitting aspect of it, but just the plain language of the ordinance just talks about fencing. It doesn't explain that garden fencing is exempt from that part of the code or anything like that. So perhaps that could be made more clear in the code, or maybe there's another section of the code that I haven't seen that makes that clear.
Larry?
We can certainly address that when the planning commission looks at the height issue. We can look at a gardening exemption.
Okay, thank you.
So it sounds like we're going to be sending this back to the planning commission, so maybe you would be able to attend that meeting and express to the planning commission your concerns.
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate an opportunity to do that. I will mention one other thing. I noticed that the prohibited materials also include used materials. And that troubles me because my wife and I have always been in the habit of finding things that are in good condition, that might be used on Craigslist or from neighbors or from relatives. I've even used fencing in the past, chain link fencing that was used, that was in good condition, and put it up on another property. And I do think the city should encourage reuse, recycling types of applications of materials. And so I don't think you should prohibit used materials as a blanket matter. But you do have provisions in there already for conditions that are in disrepair. Obviously, that wouldn't be suitable. But if things are in good condition and they're used and a homeowner wants to put them to use on their property, I think that should be encouraged and not prohibited. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Dan, go ahead.
I looked over this new ordinance, and the one thing I didn't see was talking about maintenance. The one thing I didn't see directly was that the homeowners should be painting and staining their fences as needed. All the years I've been on the council, we had a number of calls that people don't paint their fences, they don't stain the fence. The only time that the fence is painted was the day that they put it in, and it sits there forever. But I'd like to see something put in that about where it spells out that painting should be done on both sides of the fence, not just on the property, but also on the other side of the fence where his neighbor lives, because sometimes those neighbors didn't necessarily want that fence side. I think something needs to be added on painting and staining so that that these aren't kept up and spelled out, so we don't have to have a Philadelphia attorney decide we need to paint that fence or not.
So, Dan, for now, are you recommending we defer action?
Yes, I recommend deferring action and sending this down to the planning commission to discuss a 4-foot height limit in some areas, discuss fencing materials, discuss maintenance issues. I think there's a few things that were raised tonight that we can have the planning commission take a look at the coming up or their next meeting here.
And that meeting is when and what time? The fourth Thursday of the month?
That meeting is May 27th at 5:30,
Okay, thank you.
and that will be held here.
And that's here, okay?
It's a hybrid meeting.
Okay. So, is there anyone else in attendance this evening that wants an item on the agenda? You folks have an item you'd like to adjust? Is there something you'd like to address to the council?
No, we had a meeting last night, so we're just here to see if there's any discussion on that.
Okay. Very good, we'll go back to the top then, and I believe we left off at the beginning of the Community Development Committee agenda. Dan?
Yes, so I'll address the meeting last night. We did have a large group of people from Flood Lake Association. They came to the CDC meeting last night to have some input, ask some questions. The developer for the Brisbane property was here, and the neighboring properties from around Flood Lake were here to ask questions and share some input on that new development that's going in. Again, that's annexation that we've done. We did the initial plan review, we did the TIF district. There was some concerns and a lot of questions raised, and I think a lot of questions answered. But we still aren't completely done with that project. We've got the final plan approval left. Maybe other people want to weigh in on this. Kelsey, want to talk?
Mayor and council, I think it was a good discussion, a civil discussion. They had some questions. Again, I think Alderman Josephson's correct. I think between the developer and Larry, we're able to answer some of those questions. I think there's a few items that we still want to do a little bit of work on. There's some concerns about, speed limits on 131, so I want to John a little bit about, what we can do to get that speed limit. I'm not sure. My understanding from last night is that that's not a regulated speed zone, so we want to, put that to a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. A lot of concern about the boat access. I think that's a conversation we need to have with the DNR and see what we can do to help with that. Again, I think the developer was there to answer questions. I heard some of the concerns about lot sizes and stuff. Again, the subdivision itself meets our subdivision ordinance, so we'll have to see if the developer wants to come back and make any changes. I think the other discussion we had, Dan Winter from the Planning Commission brought this up. Last month we talked about rezoning the single-family lots back to an R2 district. So I think that's something we can talk about with the Planning Commission later this month too. And I think either that's initiated by the city or initiated by the developer. We'll have to figure out the actual mechanism for that. But so I think there's a few takeaways that can be worked on. But I think again overall it was productive. There's questions back and forth and information exchange.
Okay, Dan?
All right, so that was just discussion. It wasn't that there was no action to be taken tonight or.
Well, excuse me, Dan.
Yes, go ahead.
Dan Winter here. We had a discussion at the CDC about that rezoning, and I was under the impression the council needed to actually request the planning commission to look at rezoning the portion of that Brisbane edition. So do we need to do that tonight, Kelsey, in order to make that happen, or do we just bring it up at planning commission?
Alderman Winter, my suggestion is I'd like to have Larry talk to the developers because that process is going to be easier if we can get the developer to petition to have that rezoned. It's just going to be an easier process, and there's a reason why they would want to do that because it makes the setbacks. The R2 district has 10-foot setbacks, where the RM actually has a larger setback. So I'd like to go down that avenue first. Otherwise, yes, we'd have to eventually have the council basically initiate that proceeding to rezone. Larry, any comments?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. The R2 zone has 10-foot side yard setbacks, whereas the RM zone has 20-foot side yard setbacks, which would make it difficult for the developer to construct the kind of houses that he's talking about. So I think I would like to visit with the developer, and he would probably initiate that zoning change.
Okay, very good. Dan?
All right.
Okay.
So, again, no action on that item, more discussion. Item A is discussion relative to the extraterritorial subdivision ordinance. This again was a discussion. The townships did go ahead and pass a joint powers agreement with the county to administer subdivision control within the 2-mile territorial and within, for the 6 surrounding townships. The county moved ahead with that, we passed that resolution on a 4-to-1 basis, and that kind of puts us in a situation where there's 2 subdivision ordinances in effect in that 2-mile territory, and we just need to watch that. And I don't know if we need to have any more. Kelsey, want to step in?
Sure.
Take a little bit of a stab?
Sure. Mayor and council, Alderman Josephson did a good job explaining what the joint powers agreement that's in your packet as well as adopted, except there was a few changes last Tuesday at the county board meeting. But basically, what they were doing here is the agreement contemplates the townships adopting the county's comp plan, zoning ordinance, subdivision ordinance by reference, and then the townships are in turn contracting with the county to provide administrative zoning services for those items. They do retain the ability to still do plating approval if they so choose, and I'm not sure of the 6 townships how many will choose to still do plating or to pass that on to the county. So again, as Alderman Josephson said, last month we provided a memo from the city attorney along with a copy of the Attorney General's letter, basically stating that the city's subdivision ordinance, we believe, still stays in effect. The townships adopting their own subdivision rules, although clearly they're not even adopting their own rules, they're just adopting the counties by reference, does not negate the city's subdivision controls. So, fortunately, what this is potentially going to lead down this path of, if you have an applicant in the 2-mile area who goes through the township and county subdivision approval process and not go through the city's subdivision approval process, it's going to put the city in a difficult situation of determining if you want to basically file some sort of suit against it'd be the applicant, the township, the county, potentially the county recorder, if they record basically that subdivision that didn't go through the city's process. Unfortunately, obviously that's not the situation we want to be in. We talked about avoid litigation, but unfortunately that's kind of the path we're heading down. So again, no action for tonight, but I think what you as the council wants to think about is, if that happens, we have someone, again, we have the county basically approve a subdivision in the 2-mile area without going to the city approval. What actions are we willing to take?
Okay, so there's no action tonight, and hopefully the council is keeping up with the information that's being provided. Go ahead, Dan.
Right, and just a couple comments on that. This is important, a very important issue for the city. It's about orderly growth and annexation. If we start getting a ring with 5 or 10 acre lots out there, that basically boxes us in and makes it impossible for a developer to come in and petition to come to the city, or neighborhoods to come into the city with a real rational cost or expense to everybody that is involved, whether it's the city or the adjacent property owners. And we're doing special assessments on new developments in the $17,000 range, $40,000 range. We're looking now potentially at a 5-acre parcel somewhere in that $150,000 range potentially. So it's a lot of extra expense here, and I do think this is something that we do need to take a stand on, and it's very important for our growth, and it's even for the county here, because we are the population and economic base for the county. So that's kind of my soapbox part of it.
Ron?
So going forward, instead of going to the Detroit Lakes Planning Commission, effective immediately, everything now in that 2 mile zone will go to the Becker County Planning Board then? Is that what's happening now then?
No, they will need to go to both the city of Detroit Lakes in the 2 mile territory. They'll both need to go to the city of Detroit Lakes, the township, and or the county. So it's adding another layer of.
And then who has the final say between all 3 of those then?
Oh.
Everybody has to agree then?
No.
basically two parallel applications. So there'd be an application to the city to basically abide by the city subdivision regulations, and then in theory there'd be a separate application to the county to abide by the township and county subdivision regulations.
So a landowner within that extraterritorial zone is going to have to comply with both requirements, both the city's requirements and the township ordinance administered by the cities. Now, some of those things are going to overlap, but it is going to create a real difficulty for those landowners.
The township ordinance administered by the county, you said city.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I misspoke, and you are correct. It is the township ordinance administered by the county.
I don't get a chance to correct the city attorney very often.
And I appreciate it every time you do.
So when a person comes in and they talk to both the city and the county and the townships, are they gonna have to pay double, because normally those groups have fees and stuff, will they have to pay dual fees then?
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay, well, more to come on this, obviously.
Yes. Item B is discussion regarding the airport zoning ordinance. I'm not even going to try to paraphrase what we talked about last night. I'm going to punt right over to City Administrator Quinn to give us an update on this.
Mayor and council, been given updates over the last year about, this has been a to-do item with the completion of the new runways to basically update and amend our existing airport zoning ordinance. We actually have an airport zoning ordinance that's actually been in place since 1972. Now we need to basically update it to reflect the new runways and the crosswind runway. So we have a public hearing coming up on Wednesday the 26th at 5:30 right here at the Holmes Ballroom. There'll be a notice in the paper. We'll also be sending mail notices to property owners who are in zones A and B that are off the end of the runway. So basically, again, it's just an update to the existing zoning ordinance. A lot of the language is very similar. Those properties in zone A and B, they will basically be, there's an exemption for them for their current use. So as long as their current use doesn't change, there's really no issue. That's kind of it in a nutshell. The copy of the draft ordinance is in the packet, but otherwise, if people have questions, certainly encourage them to call me. We can meet. Mark Hagan will make himself available to meet with the property owners too if they have questions. And of course, come to the public hearing on the 26th.
Okay.
Right, item C is consideration to a resolution relative to parking variance to allow 45 spaces instead of the required 73 spaces at 415 Frazee Street. This is McDonald's property. Before I turn it over to Larry, the Planning Commission split this at 4-4, so there's no recommendation coming out of the Planning Commission. Last night at the CDC meeting, we did the exact same thing, except it was 2-2. So we have no recommendation coming out of the Community Development Committee. So I will turn it over to Larry, and we can have a discussion amongst the 9 of us, and hopefully we can come up with a decision on whether we approve this or not allow it. So, Larry.
Yes, McDonald's is requesting a variance so that they can put in a side-by-side drive-through. And basically you come in with one line, you split to two for a while, and then you come back to one line to pick up your food. Basically, McDonald's feels that this would improve the efficiency by 50%, and in that way they would hope that they would try and keep some of their lines from extending out into the public road. And that's the reason for their request. Staff recommended denial of this request because McDonald's is already at 54 parking spaces instead of the required 73. This would bring them down to 45 spaces, and they currently use the city parking lot for employee parking, overflow parking, buses and boats parking, the city parking lot. And by reducing their parking even further, we would aggravate that situation. So the recommendation was to deny. The motion at the Planning Commission was to approve it. and that failed on a 4-4 vote. So I think the discussion has really centered on, is the reduction in parking worth what we're going to gain to improve the lineup at the drive-through? And apparently it's a very close call as to whether or not that's an improvement or not. So that's where it was left at the Planning Commission, and that's how the CDC grant brought it forward too on a split vote. So you have resolutions in your packet, one approving it and one denying it. And if you look at the findings of fact, you have to decide which set of findings you agree with most to make your decision based on that.
Okay. So is there any member of the council wish to make any comments or ask any questions at this time? Before we get to a motion, why don't we just have a general discussion? Aaron?
I drive by there quite a bit, and there's always cars, seem like back way up, and it's getting worse. So I think if you can reduce it by 50%, like you're saying, I think that would be a smart way to go about this.
You're not reducing the line by 50%, you're improving the efficiency of how fast they get people through.
Well, yeah, that also, you know, get them out of it, get them in on.
Okay, further comments? Anybody else want to chime in?
I guess one question last night, the CDC chief wasn't present. Chief, from a safety standpoint, do you see this as a huge issue? Do you see this backing up and freezing frequently? I mean, what's your thought from a safety standpoint?
We have gotten a lot of calls about the cars backing up on Frazee. It's a wide open enough area, people see it. So they're generally not high speed, but it's an inconvenience to people who call in and complain to us about it.
Did you see this more since the pandemic has started, or did you see this prior to?
It's much worse when they close the lobby and the drive-thrus were the only place to get food. It was much worse.
Okay, thank you.
Ron?
Well, I remember when they built that in 1985, and Craig Fontaine was the first manager they had down there. And from the very get-go, they didn't have enough parking, and they knew it. So that, we're always talking about the importance of parking. And here, right off the bat, we said they could go from 73 down to 54. Now they want to go to 45, but in reality, what they've done, they have outgrown that lot. And I'm thinking here in another couple of years, we're going to be remodeling our administrative building, and we're gonna need those parking spots ourselves for our business. And right now, you've got buses pulling there, you've got all kinds of traffic that come in, fishermen with pontoons, you name it. And they've just outgrown that lot. And the only way I could see letting this be allowed with 2 lanes if they said that they weren't going to open their lobby again. Because if they open their lobby, you'd really have a mess. Because they want to take out the parking on that. We're going to be very close to the site, close to the Norseman Motors there. So I think you got a tough decision anywhere you go. But I don't know how this could be any better if they came and said we're going to open June 1st with the lobby indoors. You'd have such a mess in there now. Well, first of all, you wouldn't be able to pull in and park your car if you were going to eat inside. So I just think that we should sit down and try to meet with the owners of that spot and maybe talk to them about putting a new location in Detroit Lakes. So when they came in there, that intersection by the liquor store and Roosevelt down the pass there now, that was the second busiest intersection Detroit Lakes after Washington Avenue and Highway 10. So I just think maybe we should sit down and talk to them and see what their plans are for the future, because we certainly can't have cars backing up for the next 5 or 10 years of the way it is right now. And it's, Burger King, they're opening the lobby, so their lines have dropped down a little bit on it now. They don't have they had the lights for a while there too. And you've got the same problem at Dairy Queen too. Dairy Queen's backed way out now too at certain times you try to get in there. So I don't know if people have all this time to wait in line, because it takes forever for these people to get through there. But I think if we could somehow meet with the owners and let's find them a new spot in town, because they need it.
Okay, for Dan?
So I have never seen 43 cars parked at McDonald's at one time, but I have seen the two lines, or the one line of traffic out in the street, so I would like to see the two lines go through. And at the same time, I don't see the days of Craig Fontaine anymore. I see the days of, you know, McDonald's having that app where you can order ahead of time and pull into the parking spots and they run the food out to you. So I think they are adjusting to the changes in this community. And those two lines would make the traffic flow that much faster.
Dan?
Yeah, I guess, you know, to the point of, you know, we want people in the downtown area. It is a busy location. It's a great location. Obviously, it's too good of a location. So now we're going to punish successful businesses and say, sorry, you're too successful. Move out of the downtown area and out to the fringe of the place where we keep those people out of here. So if you want to eat fast food, go eat on the edge of town rather than downtown where we can get them in to use our rest of our businesses. So I don't like that argument that they're too successful, so let's kick them out.
Further comments?
Your Honor.
Yes, go ahead, Dan.
Something that hasn't been pointed out is the city's already done quite a bit of accommodation with McDonald's. Those parking spots over on the west side are actually on city property, but they've been granted a permanent easement for those. So, you know, we did a lot to help them all. The other thing, if you look at how those two lanes are sandwiched in there, it's gonna be very difficult for people to maneuver in that parking lot, you know, with two lanes here and then trying to move around on the outside of that for, people that are gonna park and eat inside, which I don't think is dead yet. You know, McDonald's has made quite a play for trying to get people to dine inside with their play places and so forth. So, you know, I don't think that's dead, and we're going to see plenty of people parked in there. So I think you know, giving them this variance would be a mistake.
Okay. Any other comments?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I'm on the road a lot, traveling, and if I see drive-through that's full and a parking lot's full, I'm not going. So my whole thing is, I agree, why should we punish a business that's been here for years? You know, and I think things are changing. You know, as a parent, how many people want their kid to go play in a playground these days with viruses out there? I think, I've been to McDonald's where they have these two drive-throughs, and the biggest issue you have right now is the backup all the way to Fraser East Street. If they can really decrease it by 50%, it's the time, I think it's well worth it.
Well, we've probably got most of the issues out on the table. So,
Mayor, one thing I'd like to bring up, looking at this, yes, it is next to a city lot, yes, it is next to City Hall. But you look at Zorba's, they use a city park. You look at the downtown business areas outside Norby's, or what was that whole development there, they use a city parking lot. I guess I'd like to look at this and say, we have payment in lieu of parking. We've used it before. To me, this would be a good spot to use that and say, okay, if you can't provide this, or if you're going to negate this, payment in lieu, you could use a city lot, but just know the city lot may not always be a city lot. It could change whether we sell or remodel or whatever. So you're okay to use it, but just know it's not for eternity. You know, and use that payment in lieu. I think to me the safety factor on this is having cars backed up there is something that if we can remedy it, I think we should.
do we have any payment in lieu situations right now, Kelsey? I know we've had businesses that have paid for construction of parking, but do we have anything that's more like a rental arrangement?
Basically what we established in our fee schedule is if someone came in, let's say they're doing a new project in downtown and they were short 5 parking spaces, we established a $2,500 fee that we could collect the payment in lieu of those 5 parking spaces. That doesn't guarantee them to a specific named 5 parking spaces. It just goes into our parking fund to be used for improvements to all different public parking spaces in town. So the one thing I want to be clear is people think that, oh, I paid for that spot, I get X amount of spots in that parking lot. It doesn't work that way, it just goes into a parking fund for parking improvements around the community.
That $2,500 is a one-time?
It's a one-time.
It's a one-time.
Yeah, it's a one-time fee, and then we've also have used in the past the parking district. So if we were doing, like the mall parking lot or the one behind like Norby's Flats, we have in the past gone back and say, all right, businesses that don't provide any off-street parking, you get a fee or an assessment for future parking improvements when they make the improvement. Like, is that right?
The only difference here is that we don't know what we're gonna do with City Hall yet. So it wouldn't be as forever as like the normal downtown city lots if we did this payment in lieu, right?
Yeah, we don't have, the City Hall parking lot has always been used as kind of public parking lot, but it's not necessarily a designated public parking lot like we have downtown. We have designated public parking spaces. City Hall lot has been used that way, but it's never been quite designated as a public parking lot.
I guess in my opinion, it's probably always gonna be a parking lot. Even if we remodel City Hall, we probably aren't gonna use up that whole lot. We're probably gonna keep that lot, aren't we?
Well, I think we'll always have some parking there. I'm looking at my crystal ball here a little bit. We have talked about on the south side of the lot, kind of where the main parking is. I could see us losing some parking up on top of the hill if we do any type of addition. So that, of course, would then translate into needing more of the parking on the lower level.
Employee parking.
Can I say one more thing? There used to be a liquor store there.
Yeah.
Okay, so people used to park there at the liquor store, which was a lot of parking, and then McDonald's. So it can handle the flow as far as parking.
Okay, well, at some point, we're just gonna have to come down to a vote, so would you like to make a motion, get the motion on the table, and then we can vote it up or down and go from there, I guess?
Yeah, I can make a motion in regards to, let's go with the one that's in the packet that the planning commission considered, which was to approve the variance for 45 spaces instead of the 73. And then also they had a stipulation on there to reduce the capacity of indoor seating as well. So that would be about the planning commission, and I would so move.
And Dan, are you including the payment in lieu of for the 9 spaces in that motion?
Yeah, let's go payment in lieu of in the motion.
Okay, so repeat that one more time so we got it right.
So it's consideration to a resolution relative to parking variance to allow 45 spaces instead of the required 73 spaces, including the reduction of the interior seating capacity that was proposed at the planning commission level and the payment in lieu of parking for the 9 spaces. And I so move.
Second.
Will you just explain for the council the reduction of the interior seating? Because that really wasn't.
Yeah, that was part of the proposed approval version of the.
The planning commission in motion included the provision, the one that failed on a 4-4 vote was included a provision that the indoor seating would be reduced from 120 to 96. And Larry, I believe that was a proposal from the owners of McDonald's offered that up.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes.
So the owners are okay with that? Yes, Larry?
Well, they offered it. It wasn't something that.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good to know.
What purpose does the reduced seating have on the parking spaces?
Well, if you only have room for 96 people, that means there's going to be fewer cars that will be trying to park there to use those seats.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second on the table, and I think we've had a good discussion, so I think it's time we take the vote. So, Roll call vote. Bly.
Aye.
Zeman.
No.
Josephson.
Aye.
Bulkey.
Aye.
Wenner.
No.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Spry.
No.
Mark Erickson.
No.
Suki.
No.
Oh, sorry.
So the motion fails. So now, is there another motion, or another resolution to consider, or is that the end of the line?
I'm looking at Charlie, I mean, do we need the motion to pass failed? Do we need to adopt a resolution denying it so we have findings of fact?
We have a proposed resolution that has findings of fact for a denial, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to approve those. And so the findings should be in the record.
So Dan, we need a motion to deny.
Good luck.
Well, maybe one of these deniers will make a motion to deny.
Yeah, the record is that.
We have a motion from Dan, right?
Correct.
I'll second it.
The other one.
Yep, from Dan Wenner, and seconded by Ron. Again, roll call vote. Suki,
Aye.
you're voting to deny now if you say aye.
No, deny means what now?
No, if you wasn't the motion to deny,
We have a motion to deny
that's
now.
why I'm voting yes, I'm voting to deny.
Right.
Okay.
Mark Erickson,
Yes.
Spry,
Yes.
Dahlman,
No.
Wenner,
Aye.
Bulkey,
No.
Josephson,
No.
Zeman,
Yes.
Bly.
No.
So the same result, right? If I have my
Yes.
Yep.
check marks correct, so the motion passes, the motion is denied. Okay, Dan?
All right, item B is consideration of a resolution approving the preliminary plat of Anchor Klein at 20074 Klein Road. This is Gary Heitkamp's subdivision. The CDC reviewed this last night, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving the preliminary plat of Anchor Klein at 20074 Klein Road. Discussion?
Yeah, this is just a two-lot split in the 2-mile extraterritorial zone that we're just rubber stamping, basically.
Further discussion? Roll call vote. Bly.
Aye.
Zeman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Bulkey.
Aye.
Wenner.
Aye.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Mark Erickson.
Aye.
Suki. The motion carries.
Item E is consideration for a resolution approving the final plat of Rock Ridge at 15248 310th Avenue. This is Lee Carlson's addition. Again, this is in the 2-mile extraterritorial. CDC reviewed this and recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the final plat of Rock Ridge at 15248 310th Avenue. Discussion? Roll call vote. Suki.
Aye.
Mark Erickson.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Leonard.
Aye.
Bulkey.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Zeman.
Aye.
Bly.
Aye.
The motion carries.
I think I've taken enough time.
Thanks, Dan. Move to the Public Works Committee tonight. The chairman for this committee will be Natalie.
Excellent. Try to be as exciting as you can see. So the first item on our agenda yesterday was the discussion of the Washington Avenue streetscapes. And our city engineer, John Pratt, can provide an update on a couple changes.
All right, Mayor and Council, more follow-up here on the streetscapes we've been discussing in the last several months. One thing that I wanted to bring back to the council, now that we've got a little bit better handle on some costs, we're proceeding with the sailboat monument per the discussion last month. We're also getting a little bit firmer grasp on what those costs are. And without getting too far into the weeds, what I wanted to bring to the council's attention is the costs for the sailboat monument are quite a bit more than what we originally projected. And so the decision that I wanted to take back to the council tonight, or have some discussion on, was do we or don't we want to proceed with the entrance monument sign that would go on the west side of the road? We've got costs and renderings from the sign manufacturer. Hans Gilsdorf has been assisting with that. And the cost for that sign is right around $50,000. I can pull up a rendering if you'd like to see it. Otherwise, I sort of wanted just to point out that cost. And then yesterday at Public Works, we had a discussion about this relative to where we're at with the overall budget on the project. And I did some more digging on that today to try to give a little bit of perspective on that. We had an original project budget of about $4,346,000 when we took bids. If you look at where we were sort of tracking exclusive of these streetscape enhancements, we were sort of, and this would include the added costs that we incurred last fall because of the early arrival of winter. If you recall there, we had about $50,000 of added cost related to cold weather concrete, things of that nature. The costs that we've agreed to incur to do some modifications to the roundabouts, and all the other just different changes and things moving around, we were actually still tracking to come in about 5% under the project budget. Now, if we throw in all of the streetscapes, and keep in mind, 90% of these streetscapes items are already done. That we've moved past that point. Really, the only thing we have left to decide is this entrance monument. If we were to proceed with everything, including the entrance monument, we would actually tick up, tick up to just about a little over 2% over what our projected budget is. So it's certainly not, I guess, what I would call significant. I mean, to be within 2% of the budget, I would call that a success. But I do want the council to be aware that if we move ahead with the sign, that brings us up a little bit. So with that, I think I'd just take some questions and see if there's some discussion. We ultimately need to make a decision if we want to proceed with this entrance monument.
Any questions for John?
John, I've got a question. You're saying we're 2% over budget. Does that include the 50,000?
Yes.
Input that? Okay, so
Yeah.
that's, but even including that with the 2%.
All in, if we proceeded with the sign.
And all the streetscape stuff we talked about?
All the other streetscape stuff, we would be about 2% over budget. We had some cost savings elsewhere, underran some various things. We took the Compass Rose out, if you remember, that was some savings. So, I mean, numbers are constantly moving around. And I, in fairness, am still having to project some of these numbers, but based on my best projections, if we proceeded with this, we would be just about 2 to 3% over budget.
Well, for me, I think you've done a good job on it.
Further questions for John?
What is that dollar figure that we're talking about, rather than the percentages? Because I like to compare
Real numbers.
dollars to dollars than percentages.
Yeah, again, I'm comparing it back to the original budget of $4,346,000, and 2% represents about $90,000. Round numbers.
Other questions for John?
Can we trade out those yield signs that we approved last month for money towards the permanent structure?
That's included in that.
I know, I want to get rid of them.
I think they're already ordered. So, further questions? If not, Natalie, is there an action to be taken tonight?
Yeah, the original agenda item was discussion, but then we talked about it and how we approved the safety items last month that Dan's talking about. And the motion is to go ahead and proceed with ordering the monolith sign to finish this project up, and I so move.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the additional streetscapes for the Washington Avenue project. Discussion? Do a roll call vote. Bly.
Aye.
Seaman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Bulky.
And yeah.
Wenner.
Aye.
Dahlman. Aye. Spry.
Aye.
Marks Erickson.
Aye.
Suki.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item B. We reviewed this at Public Works yesterday, the consideration to a resolution approving plans, specs, and authorizing advertisement for bids for the proposed Ridgeview First Edition street utility improvements, and I so move.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving plan specs and authorizing advertisement for bids for the Ridgeview First Edition Street and Utility Improvement Project. Discussion? Roll call vote. Suki.
Aye.
Marks Erickson.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Wenner.
Aye.
Bulky.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Zeman.
Aye.
Bly.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next item was the consideration to the 2021 Detroit Lakes Youth Hockey Association Summer Ice Agreement. The agreement in the packet is the old version, and there will be no tournaments in DL this year. So the changes, instead of using the ice 7 days a week, it's using it 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday for youth hockey. And the new dollar fee is $23,000 instead of the $35,000, which youth hockey will support and pay for through registration fees. So it's just updating the current usage and price. So with that said, I would go ahead and move for the consideration to the 2021 Detroit Lakes Youth Hockey Association Summer Ice Agreement.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the 2021 Detroit Lakes Youth Hockey Association Summer Ice Agreement. Discussion?
Is the savings just staff time, or because ice is ice and we're in there 7 days a week regardless, so it's staff time?
But that's a big part of it, the 2 weekend tournaments, Friday through Sunday, it's a lot of staffing.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call vote. Bly.
Aye.
Seaman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Bulky.
Aye.
Wenner.
Aye.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Marks Erickson.
Aye.
Suki.
Aye.
The motion carries.
The next item I might need a little help with, there's consideration to approve the designating drop-off zones during construction on Roosevelt Avenue in front of the high school. And can I call on Sean? There's a difference in signage needed in front of the high school because right now there's a current drop-off location for students.
Mayor and Council, this is in regards to the high school drop-off and loading zone. Currently, they put up temporary signs for no parking for drop-off pickup. Of course, they are not regulatory signs. So the students have found out that they can park there and there's no recourse for them. So I got a note from the school resource officer asking us if we would allow for 10 parking stalls just during the construction phase of the high school. And if the city would put up regulatory signs so they can be enforced, and it would be between Parkview and Roberts on the school side only.
Okay. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. So with that, I would make a motion to the consideration to approve designating drop-off zones during construction on Roosevelt Avenue in front of the high school between Parkview and Roberts.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the designation of some drop-off parking spots for a drop-off zone during the construction of the Detroit Lakes High School. Discussion? Roll call vote. Suki.
Aye.
Marks Erickson.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Leonard.
Aye.
Bulky.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Seaman.
Aye.
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 The motion is approved.
And the next item is the Public Works Facility, and I will call on our city administrator, Kelsey, to start that one.
In your packet, Mayor and Council, in your packet, there's a proposal from Apex Engineering that was requested actually from the county. The county would like to get started on doing some site improvements on their property on North Tower Road, where they plan on putting a new highway department. The city has property right next to it for our new public works facility, so it makes sense for us to do site grading as one complete project. So what you see in the cost-wise, would actually be splitting that with the county. The contract would actually be between Apex and the county. We would be providing our contribution directly to the county. It would be no more than half of that fee. We haven't worked out the exact split yet, but it would be no more than half of that proposal.
Okay, questions for Kelsey regarding the plan to do that site work? Emily?
So we discussed in the consideration to approve the proposal for the site work for the public works facility, and I so move.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the proposal for the site work for the new proposed public works facility. Discussion? Roll call. Bly.
Aye.
Zeman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Wolke. Wenner.
Aye.
Dahlman. Spry.
Aye.
Mark Sergson. Suki.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item F, the consideration to the resolution calling for a public hearing at the June 8th, 2021 meeting for the capital improvement plan, and I so move.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to set a public hearing at the June 8th. Is that our council meeting? At our June 8th council meeting to present the capital improvement plan to the public. Discussion? Roll call vote. Bly.
Aye.
Zeman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Wolke.
Aye.
Wenner.
Aye.
Dahlman. Spry.
Aye.
Mark Sergson.
Aye.
Suki.
Aye.
The motion carries.
And item G, Brent Keene with DLM Downtown Properties LLC visited us yesterday at Public Works and presented his consideration to the amendment agreement in place. And it's in your packet to add or remove 3 parking stalls and add garbage and recycling receptacles with a fenced-in area around there. And we looked at it, and I don't know if Kelsey, you have anything to add to that?
No, I was just going to explain, Mayor and Council, the agreement that's in your packet is from 2011 for the existing garbage space that's there now over by the jet turbine. So the proposal would be to basically add an extra 3 parking spaces next to the police department once that's vacated from the police department, and then amend this existing agreement to accommodate that.
So we wouldn't add parking spaces, we would utilize those 3 spaces for dumpsters, right?
Correct.
And recycling.
Correct. And they would be responsible for putting all the fencing and the enclosure up.
Okay.
So Public Works discussed, and I so move for the consideration to amending the easement encroachment agreement with DLM Downtown Properties LLC to add an additional space for more solid waste with receptacles with an annual review next May of the parking garbage receptacle area.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to amend our easement encroachment agreement with DLM to add some additional space for solid waste and recycling receptacles with a review scheduled for 1 year.
Got a question or comment. Since we're talking about drive-thrus, and we've got 3 drive-thrus in that area, and we're taking 3 parking spaces away, we're creating more parking issues, and are we gonna talk about payment of parking, or are we gonna just give up this parking issue because it's more than just one business downtown?
I don't know if you want me to comment on that, but I mean, I guess my response is that part of this depends what ends up going in the police department, right? I mean, basically that parking and also the parking east of there is currently reserved for the police department. So when the police department vacates that building, there will be a net increase in parking in that parking lot. Now, granted, if we turn around and lease this to some sort of parking heavy use, then you're not going to see a net gain. But at least now, as anticipated, you're going to see a net increase in parking there when the police department moves out.
Go ahead, Ron.
Well, the question I have, and I worked downtown for 43 years there, and you know, they really shouldn't have to put these spots in because all they have to do is have the garbage truck come every day instead of 3 times a week. And the other question I had, like Dan mentioned, you know, we've done a lot of giving to help Moose and his crew, you know, work on their different properties and stuff. And the only thing I ask is that across the street from the police department is that big parking lot that they own behind the Dairy Queen. And I've asked them a number of times, is it okay that we get busy times of year, crazy days, whatever it may be, that you would let public parking use that empty spot next to the alley? And every time, no, but every time they come and ask us, and we're supposed to give up our spots, but they don't want to give up their spots. And that does kind of bother me, for the fact that everybody else has to provide enough parking. And I think we've done more than give and take on this. I'm just asking our staff to talk to them about, can we use some of those spots when we need to be without having worried about having those cars being hauled away. And we've been more than fair with them since they moved in, and we've given up a lot of spots, and they built all these apartments. Now there's no parking stalls. And so I just think it's fair that if they could help us, they want us to help them, but let's make it fair and have them help us too. That's just a comment I want to make.
Further discussion?
So part of the discussion at Public Works yesterday was to amend this, or the motion to include the annual review next year to see what that does to the parking.
No, and I'm glad that's part of it, but I go a little more maybe.
Further discussion? Okay, so we have a motion to approve the change, amending the agreement and the requirement that we'll have an annual review next year to reassess the situation. Further discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. Suki?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Dahlman? Aye. Wenner?
Aye.
Bulkey?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Zeman?
No.
Bly?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And our last item under Public Works is the city engineer's monthly project status, and your computer's ready.
It is, so I have it, and I printed it out. Mayor and council, I'll just run through what we've got going on. There certainly is a little bit of activity to report. Construction's kind of starting to get into gear here. Starting off, Westlake Drive, Legion to 6. The county had their court hearing yesterday regarding the condemnation proceeding that we're utilizing to try to advance this project. And again, as a reminder, there's still an ongoing quiet title process, and so these things are kind of running in parallel. The court hearing happened yesterday. Unfortunately, and to our surprise, the court did not issue a finding at the hearing. They're going to take it under advisement and render an opinion or a decision here sometime in the near future. A little cloudy as to what sometime means, but we're hoping within the next week or so. So until we get that, and we're still relatively confident that the court will agree with the condemnation, but until we get that, we're sort of stalled out, all dressed up, nowhere to go. Plans are ready to go. We just need to get through this so that we can get our final approvals from MnDOT to advance the project a bit. So, clock is ticking. We still think that we're in a position that we can get the project done, but it does need to move ahead fairly quickly, or we're going to be in a position where that's going to be a little difficult to get done this year. So, as of right now, I'm hoping we can bid later this month and maybe start the project mid-July, probably closer to late July at this point. So that's sort of the update on that. Westlake Drive, County Road 6 to the Pelican River. Again, the Becker County received a grant from CHIP to do some further study of that trail alignment. If you recall, we've had some discussion in the past whether to go to the lakeside or the west side of the road. We kind of had a kickoff meeting with the county last week on that. Ultimately, where we're probably heading with this is some sort of a public informational input meeting, maybe the early part of July, to get some further input from public on that so that we have that alignment established before we move ahead with design and the project's scheduled for construction next year. Burke Rehnquist subdivision, we talked about that tonight. Plans are basically done. We'll be moving into advertising for bids on that. South Washington Avenue, obviously you've noticed the street's closed. They're finishing up the roundabout and some of the other things down there, getting close to wrapped up. Be some paving activity in, I think, next week. So probably looking at a closure of another week and a half or 2 weeks, and then we should have that open back up. There'll probably still be some work to do around that sailboat monument, kind of leading in towards the tail end of the month. So, Long Pine Estates Phase 2 contractor has resumed work on that. They've got the curb down, working on street construction, probably looking at paving sometime in the next couple of weeks, and that'll wrap up that project. Brisson subdivision, again, being done privately. To my knowledge, they haven't quite started designing that yet, but still have intentions of doing a project this year. We'll just see how that develops. Willow Homes and Frazee Street are a large reconstruction project for this year. We're still awaiting a plan review from MnDOT to come back to our office on that so that we can move that ahead. At this point, if I had to take some guesses, we're probably a couple weeks out from bidding that yet. So again, kind of looking at a midsummer start. And in all likelihood, that work will probably just include Frazee Homes in the alley this year, and then the Willow Street portion of the project would be done next year. So a 2-year project.
Mr. Brown? John, there's a question.
Yes.
Looking at that, Willow Homes, Frazee Street, are we waiting MnDOT just to comment on the Willow portion, or are they commenting on Homes and Frazee as well?
Well, Homes and Frazee, the project's being funded with some federal municipal state aid dollars.
Gotcha.
So with those federal dollars, it has to go through a review locally, and then it also has to go down to MnDOT's central office in the cities, and that's where we're at right now.
Thanks.
So, then Lake Forest 7th edition, the contractor has just started to do some work out there. The set dewatering wells anticipate probably starting the sewer and water work on 270th Avenue probably next week. So that portion of that 270th Avenue will be closed for probably around 3 weeks when that starts, and then they'll move into the development after that. So, questions?
Thanks, John. Anything else, Natalie? Okay, well, down to the Finance Committee, there's a few remaining items, Ron.
Okay, let's go to item 7B. It's a consideration to a second reading adoption ordinance number 476 for Arctic Cable Franchise Agreement. Committee recommends and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to give second reading and adopt ordinance 476 regarding the Arctic Cable Franchise Agreement. Discussion? A roll call vote. Bly.
Aye.
Zeman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Bulkey.
Aye.
Henner.
Aye.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Marks Erickson.
Aye.
Suki. The motion carries. Second reading is given and ordinance 476 is adopted.
Okay, next item is B1, right below it, consideration of approving the summary of ordinance 476, Arctic Cable Franchise Agreement for publication purposes only, requires a 4/5 vote of the entire council. The committee recommends and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a summary of the ordinance for publication. Discussion? Roll call vote. Bly.
Aye.
Zeman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Bulkey.
Aye.
Renner.
Aye.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Marks Erickson.
Aye.
Suki.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is item 7F. We're going to pull this for now. It was for quotes for a concrete slab at the Legion Campground, but we've got concerns over the impervious surface, so we're going to have to get some people in and double check to see what we can do about that. And I'll probably be back later. Maybe we won't be able to do that until next summer. Let's go on to item G there. Consideration to approving the assessor's contract. The assessor packet agreement is in your packet there. You'll see that the compensation rates for the next 5 years are starting July 1st of 2021 and ending June 30th of 2026. There's a small increase each year. the compensation will be paid $45,000 on January 1st of each year, and the balance of the balance will be paid in the second, or on June 1st of $45,000 plus the annual yearly increase. The committee recommends, and I so move.
Second.
It's been made and seconded to approve the assessor's contract. Discussion? Roll call vote. Suki?
Aye.
Mark Sirksen?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Leonard?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I have a question
I'm
about
sorry.
that.
Go ahead.
How would the concrete slab increase in purpose? It's a replacement, that's why I'm asking.
It's not a replacement, it's concreting, existing grass, parking
It
paths.
says replacement there, okay.
But they've got so much concrete out there, and after the council went out and checked, and when they did the GPS thing, it was way, like, 30%, it's supposed to be down to 25%, so they've got to figure out what they're gonna do with that. Okay, looking at item 7H, consideration to a quote from Bradco for tech pointing for the police department building. We had discussion on this, and we received just one bid, and it came in at a total of $22,805,000. We did talk a little bit about having another firm come up from Minneapolis, but this project is so small. I don't know if somebody's gonna come up from Minneapolis and do $22,000 worth of work, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we approve the quote from Bradco and go ahead and have this project done.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a quote for tuck pointing the old police department building. So, question, Kelsey, are we including a discussion about the police department building at our capital improvement discussion, or not? It's not on there?
No.
Is there one possibility that we doze that down?
Probably not. The complication is the utilities and infrastructure that are underneath it.
Okay.
It's really problematic.
Okay.
Sean, I hate to put you on the spot, but I know there was some discussion at finance. You sought other proposals, quotes. Do you remember who you sought proposals from?
There was another company out of the cities and one out of Fargo, but they elected not to bid. I couldn't even get them down here to bid. The one out of the cities is actually pretty busy, and I believe they're the ones that worked on the school ball.
All right, that was my only question. Any further questions? We have a motion and a second on the table to approve the tuck pointing quote. I'll do a roll call vote. Bly?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Leonard?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Mark Sirksen?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mayor, one question on that, and it doesn't change my vote at all, but why is the rear entry addition not included in tuck pointing? Specifically called out, I can't imagine that that's in pristine shape.
Actually, I had Bradco over and look at it, and they recommended not doing it because it is a newer portion, and there's no reason to take that concrete out and re-tuck point it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Ron?
No, that's all you have.
Okay. We'll move to the Public Safety Committee. Chairman Winter.
Thank you, Your Honor. The item on the agenda here is a resolution to amend the fire department fee schedule. And I was wondering, is Chief Swanson there tonight?
Yes, he is.
He was.
I think he left now.
Oh, all right. Well, I know what they are.
Isn't he here? He was here, yeah.
He's not here, Dan. I was mistaken.
Assuming he's not here, we're needing to change the fee schedule to basically to align more with the DNR costs. So we're moving the fee for grass fires and mutual aid from $400 to $500 and the use of the truck from $100 to $150. The Public Safety Committee recommended approval of this, and I so move.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the resolution amending the fire department fee schedule. Further discussion? Roll call vote. Suki.
Aye.
Mark Xerxen.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Dahlman. Aye. Weiner.
Aye.
Oki.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Seaman.
Aye.
Bly.
Aye.
Anything else, Dan?
Well, I'd like Chief Todd to give us an update on where the New City Police Station is, if he's there tonight.
Yes, he is. Chief?
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Things are going well. Every week I say I think we should be in there next week, and then we're not, so I'm not going to make that prediction this week. But we did take over possession of the evidence room, so that area of the building has been secured, and we actually moved into it last week. And the reason I made that decision is because our evidence custodian, or evidence room manager, had to leave town this week for a training in Alabama, and I did not want to get caught doing the move without him to help lead that. So we've taken possession of that, and we're pretty well all moved in there. He'll have a little more programs than we can on when he gets back from his training. They're working on the punch list items, so painters are actually working inside, touching up the blemish areas that maybe got painters scraped during the construction process. So, do you want my prediction, or should I hold it to myself?
No, we're getting close, right?
Yeah, I think maybe the end of this week or early next week.
And you have a plan for how you're gonna actually physically move?
Yep.
Something
Yep.
like that?
Involves lots of early young guys in the haul trucks.
Okay.
So, we should be good. You know, we're not moving the furniture, so it's easier.
Did you hear a lot of good comments after last Friday's economic summit when people came over?
Yeah, it was an enjoyable group, and we've done several groups here. 10 o'clock Coffee Club was a good one. It's been good, and I actually have 3 groups already on the calendar that want to have meetings there. The League of Women Voters is one, Kiwanis is one, and Girl Scouts all on the 18th and 19th.
And you had the ministers praying for you. They were over there.
Yep, and the ministerium came and toured it and prayed over us in the building, so we'll take all the help we can get.
All right, well, make sure you mention to people how fast this is getting paid off too. Right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So Mayor, we'll probably look at that full-blown open house here.
Yeah.
Once everything is moved in, we'll raise some furniture, the landscaping has to get done, we kind of want to get that all done.
Sure, okay. Very good. Anything else, Dan?
I would just note that the roofing is proceeding on the fire department, so that building should be in pretty decent here shortly, and I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Liquor gambling control, Matt.
Item 9E is discussion regarding the 150th celebrations. Kelsey, if you want to give us the cliff notes on that.
Sure. A1, we talked a little bit about the banner that we're looking at doing. Washington Ballpark, we're going to continue to work on that. A2 is in regards to consideration to a corporate sponsorship of $2,500 for the water carnival. In the past, we typically haven't done a cash contribution to the water carnival because we do a lot of in-kind, pavilion, works crew. But this year, for this kind of one-time deal, we're proposing to do the corporate sponsorship to promote our 150th. So then they would use our 150th logo on a lot of their gear and different things to try to promote the city's events. So that's the consideration for A2.
So the only action item then, Matt, I suppose would be the approval of the sponsorship?
Correct. Okay. So I would make a motion to approve the sponsor of the 85th Northwest Water Carnival.
Second.
Motion's been made to approve a sponsorship of the 85th Northwest Water Carnival to include signage and promotion of the 150th anniversary of the city. Further discussion? Roll call vote. Bly.
Aye.
Seaman. Aye. Josephson.
Aye.
Oki.
Aye.
Weiner.
Aye.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Spry. Mark Xerxen.
Aye.
Suki.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 9B is consideration of approving a temporary expansion permit for Roasted. This would be the same as last year's, where we're going to be installing a dock, taking up, I believe, 2 parking spots on Washington Avenue. I'm getting maybe 1 spot.
I think it's more than that.
Taking up some spots on Washington
Yeah,
Avenue. 3 last year. Taking up some spots on Washington Avenue. We discussed this and we moved for recommendation, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the temporary expansion permit for Roasted. Discussion? Roll call vote. Suki?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Spry? Dolman?
Aye.
Winter?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Seaman?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
And Wendy, I think you have muted yourself, so we can't hear if you vote. There you go.
Sorry, aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay.
Item 9C is consideration of quotes for cooler door upgrades at the liquor store. Randy, I'm going to take a stab at this, but let me know if I'm incorrect. This would be for the install of automatic doors going into the beer cooler. They wouldn't be automatic, something to invite more people in there. The quotes are in there, and this was a capital budget item back in 2019 that we're just doing this year. Randy, any other updates?
No.
So we discussed this, and I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the quote for the cooler upgrades at the liquor store. Discussion? Roll call vote. Bly?
Aye.
Seaman?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Leonard?
Aye.
Dolman?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
All right, I think we do have one Public Utilities Commission item. Renell, you want to just briefly describe what we're considering doing here? Thank you.
Yes, Mayor and Council, inside the package is a letter of recommendation from DGR Engineering. On May 4th, we opened bids for the electrical substation project, South Sub proper. The bids came in between $1,335,000 by HK Shoals with a high bid of $1,880,000, about $933,000. The recommendation is to award the bid to HK Shoals for $1,335,000, and the Public Utilities Commission reviewed this morning and approved it and recommended approval by the council.
Okay, Madeline, do you want to take this, or do you want Ron to propose the motion?
Oh, I move to accept the quote and award the construction contract for the South Substation construction.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the quote, award the construction contract for the South Substation construction. Discussion? Roll call vote. Suki?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Dolman?
Aye.
Winter?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Seaman?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
And also, we should mention that the dedication for the new wastewater treatment facility will be held on May 18th from 12:30 to 3:30. And Brunel, is there a time when there's going to be like a ribbon cutting or?
Yeah, I think if we get everybody there about 12:30, sometime between 12:30 and 4:45, we'll have your comments. Commission President Sinclair will make his. I'll give a little bit of history about ribbon cutting from 12:45, 12:50, depends on how long I talk.
Very good, thank you. We have a couple of, we have one city administrative item that we need to take care of. It's consideration to a resolution to authorize the execution of a MnDOT grant agreement for expense reimbursement. Kelsey?
Mayor and Council, the airport was awarded a Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriation Act, grant amount of $13,000, so there's a resolution agreement in the packet for approval.
So we'd like to make that motion.
I'll make that motion to give consideration to the resolution to authorize execution of NDOT grant agreement for expense reimbursement.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to execute the MnDOT grant agreement for reimbursement for the airport, the amount of $13,000. Discussion? A roll call vote. Bly?
Aye.
Seaman?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Leonard?
Aye.
Dolman? Spry?
Aye.
Marks Erickson? Suki? Motion
Aye.
carries. We also have consideration to extending the declaration of emergency, and I would entertain a motion, unless Kelsey would want to make any comments on extending that, or?
No, Mayor and Council, I think the hybrid options have been going well with all our committees. Again, this provides the flexibility for those on the boards or the committees to attend virtually. It's extended at least for another month, and then we'll reassess. But again, unless there's a legislative change, it gives us a little more flexibility to do this. We're going to have to keep this going for a little bit longer.
All right, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a resolution to extend the declaration of emergency for 1 more month.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call vote. Bly. Seaman. Josephson. Oki. No. Leonard. Dahlman. Spry. Mark Xerxen. Suki. The motion carries. A couple of announcements. There's an informational meeting, not informal, informational meeting for improvements to the Willow Springs subdivision. That will be held at 5:30, May 25th, right here in the Holmes Ballroom. And then there will be a presentation at 6 p.m. South Shore Park groundbreaking will take place on Wednesday, May 19th, from 4 to 7. And are we going to cut the ribbon probably about, right after 4?
I think we're targeting 4:30.
4:30, okay. The joint governance meeting dates are listed. The city council meeting dates for the balance of the year are listed. Is there any other items from the city staff tonight?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Aaron, anything else?
All good.
Hadley?
All good.
Dan? Ron?
Well, sometime I hope that, springtime is here. It's time for spring cleaning. And I see all these cities around us doing spring cleaning where the neighbors bring their stuff out of their backyards and put it on the curb and the city picks it up and it keeps their city clean. We've never done this before, so I can only imagine how much junk is in people's backyards. And I hope someday we can make it a reality and we'll have a true cleanup of the Trail Lakes and make our city even more beautiful.
I did ask our Public Works Director, Sean King, to bring this up for consideration in the Public Works at some point, so we should revisit it for sure.
I appreciate that. I think we'd be surprised when we're going to find that.
Like Matt?
Get ready for a busy summer and kudos to those high school kids figuring out if they can park in the drop-off spot without dedicated spots. I like that. Chief, give a heads up now.
Hey, I experienced that when I'm home picking up my daughter. It's terrible. I made a few phone calls and no one listens.
That's ingenuity, but not anymore.
So apparently they're learning something. Jamie?
You're not destroying anything.
And Madeline? You're good, Dan?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, Wendy?
I'm good.
Okay, business of this council has come to a conclusion. Meeting's adjourned.